What if that pattern wasn't to exist? Because you're the creator of your life. So when you jump in and you choose to view the situation differently, like laying down your pride, out of complete curiosity, how that changes the dynamic. When you don't start to interject, oh, I want to say this, or oh, I told you this before, or that's a ridiculous feeling. Okay, so this is also another. All right, let's go to the next question. I'm having a difficult time communicating with my wife. How can I lay down my pride and really hear what she's feeling instead of jumping to past emotions or frustration? Well, these things, when you say wife, I'm going to assume that you've been married for some time. And these things do get created over time, right? Like this isn't just an overnight thing. So we build patterns in relationships. So for the people who are in a new relationship, really, really pay attention to the patterns that you're creating, the things that you're saying, the things that you're feeling, and most importantly, the things that you're not saying and the things that you're feeling that you're not talking about or not releasing. Because I think we're all notorious in many ways for being in a new relationship, being all in love, and then just, letting things like slip by that actually impacted us or hurt us or made us feel a certain way. And then over the years, it's like everything piles up so much so that we almost feel like we can't quite like pick it apart to understand, like, why am I feeling this way even? Like, I know this might be ridiculous or it's not ridiculous. And I can't believe my partner or my spouse hasn't found a way to support me on this. So that's for someone who's new. Get into it early. Talk about your feelings. Have a date each week of when you're sitting down and you're talking about how you actually feel and what each other can do for each other, right? Stay in the positive of it. What do I need more of? And you can talk about what do I need less of, and what did I feel like I really needed? And then you have a really growing relationship. Okay, so back to the actual question, which was, I'm again assuming that this person has been married for a while and that they've built somewhat of a dossier against that person, meaning a whole long list, right? Women are potentially more notorious for this than men oftentimes about building these lists, and men are just like, yeah, whatever, like you're talking about something that happened 10 years ago. Are you kidding me? And the woman's like, yeah, and she remembers it like it was yesterday. Very difficult situation between men and women. And it doesn't always have to stereotypically be a man and a woman, but generally the energies sort of work a little bit more like that. And so what I think really needs to happen here is you need to do your own advice, which is lay down your pride, right? Because you're saying you really want to hear what she's feeling, but that you're jumping to the emotions of frustration because you're jumping to what you think her response already is going to be based on the pattern that you have with her. What if that pattern wasn't to exist? Because you're the creator of your life. So when you jump in and you choose to view the situation differently, like laying down your pride, and you say, you know what? No, I'm going to come in really wanting to hear what my wife has to say. And I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to listen deeply for the nuances that maybe I've never heard before. I promise you, there will be so many nuances in there. And the moment that you start to listen and allow her to feel heard, the dynamic will change dramatically. And listen, over time, you kind of have to stick to this because initially she may not be as receptive as you'd like to this newfound way of communicating with her. What happens is when we feel validated and we feel heard, it starts to diffuse the deeper emotion. Sometimes, depending upon how long this has gone on, it accentuates it. And then we get like really like, and like, you're finally hearing me. And then we don't actually respond. I'm saying we collectively, the person that's feeling unheard, because then we're like, okay, now you finally are hearing me. And So there can be that dynamic as well, but please stick with it. Just let them talk it out. Let them feel it out in that moment. Let them feel what it's like to finally be heard with whatever emotion comes. So I think first and foremost, go into that conversation with the goal that you are not going to be heard. Whether that happens or not is left up to the universe and, your relationship. But go into it simply wanting to hear and allow the other person to feel, and just observe out of complete curiosity how that changes the dynamic. When you don't start to interject, oh, I want to say this, or oh, I told you this before, or that's a ridiculous feeling. Okay, so this is also another really common thing, often between men and women. Men have a way of seeing things very black and white. There's nothing wrong with it. Women have a way of seeing lots of shades of gray, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it's two very different styles of thinking, feeling, and communicating. And men often want to jump to what is the fastest, quickest solution to this problem. And there is nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing. But if a woman is not feeling heard, she doesn't care about your solution, no matter how smart, how savvy, how quick fix it might be, and how logical, right? Because that's the other thing. It's I think a lot of times we're in between this, what's logical and how do I feel? And men like to talk about logic, and women like to talk about how they feel. So just take this in, think about it, but more feel about it. Because if you start to think before you even go into the conversation, the outcome of her feeling heard and her feeling diffused emotionally, and you guys actually coming to a place where you're both going to be heard, visualize that before you even start the conversation. And you are just going to see a lot change in your relationship and your communication. And again, try not to have a lot of expectation for that first time, because it can be really jolting to your partner to actually have you show up and listen. So just remember, some of these things take time. We take time to get into them and get everything raveled so tightly. So oftentimes it takes some time to just get out of them. All right, let's go on to the next question.